I want to say how proud I am to see young men doing an awesome thing. Thank you so much. What is the name of your group?
We are Wasatch Lobbying, and then
Wasatch what?
Wasatch Lobbying.
Wasatch Lobbyists.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Lobbyists. And then we help the civic advocacy group for the Wasatch Independent Debate League.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you guys are sure handsome.
Oh, thank
My
you.
goodness, when my grandgirls come up, I would want them to marry someone like you guys. I'm not kidding. I think it's awesome.
Single. Yeah.
As Kristen shares with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here, and thank you guys for organizing this. It's awesome, and I appreciate the support for the bill. Let me know, you just like wave your hand if you can't hear me. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, so I want to explain what this bill is and why we need it. First of all, the bill number is House Bill 60, but it's on the first substitute. So that's an amended version of the bill. So it's House Bill 60, S as in substitute 1. And that's how you identify the bill. If you're looking at it on the le.utah.gov website, you would go to the bills and 2022 bills, and then you'd scroll down to HB 60, and you click on HB 60, and then if you look on the right margin of the page, there is a little window that says other versions. And the version that you want to read is the one in that box. And there's also one that compares the two versions, if you'd like to see that. So what the bill does, and I'm going to go into some great detail on this, so bear with me. The bill prohibits the use of immunity status by places of public accommodation, governmental entities, and by employers, except for those who are bound by CMS contracts. What the bill says, there's been a lot of objection to line 20, but remember, we're on S1 now, so line 20 doesn't say what it said in the original version. So anybody who's been hearing things about the problems with line 20, it did refer to emergency use authorization. That is totally out of the bill now.
Woo!
It's not there at all, not in line 20 and not anywhere else, okay? So don't worry about emergency use authorization. It now reads, this bill enacts a prohibition on the use of an individual's immunity status by places of public accommodation, governmental entities, and employers. That's what line 20 says now. Okay, so what does the bill do? It prohibits vaccine passports as a condition of participation in the private sector, as most individuals perceive the concept of a vaccine passport, which is a violation of personal liberty. It prohibits any government entity from denying services to an individual on the basis of the individual's vaccination status, including whether the individual has an immunity passport. It prohibits government and private employers from discriminating against employees on the basis of the employee's vaccination status, including whether the individual has an immunity passport. It protects private businesses from being forced into acting as the medical enforcement arm of the health department by prohibiting all of those things. It defines some new terms, including immunity status, immunity passport, and vaccination status. In the immunity passport definition, it means a document, a digital record, or a software application indicating that an individual is immune to a disease, whether through vaccination or infection and recovery. One of the important things about this bill is that it addresses natural immunity. That's one of the things that we haven't seen addressed in most of the discussion during the COVID, the past 2 years of COVID policy discussions. We don't talk about natural immunity. It's really important that we recognize natural immunity because it is the first and best kind of immunity. It's durable, it's broad spectrum, and it is the best kind of immunity to any illness, including COVID. So that's an important part of the bill. There are some exceptions for facilities that receive CMS funding, which is Medicare and Medicaid. If their funding would be affected by compliance in this statute, then they have an exception. We cannot include these facilities because they are under contract with CMS. We can't get between them and their contract without jeopardizing the entire bill. So that's why they're not included. I will tell you right now that that is the one group of people that I really, really wanted included. And it's very disappointing to me that we can't touch that right now. And I would like to see another bill that addresses just that. Okay, some are also concerned about students being excluded from this. We actually, in 2021, in the general session, we passed a bill, I think it was SB 233, is that the right number? Okay. SB 233 by Representative Mark Strong addressed exemptions for higher ed. It also made a change in the exemptions for K-12, and so what it does now is kids are not allowed to be kicked out of school simply because there's an outbreak and they're not vaccinated, which is a huge improvement over what we had. And it also extended the exemptions through higher ed. Now, there are some limitations on which schools are affected by this bill. They have to be the Utah Public Schools that are listed in other code, and I can't remember exactly where that is, but if you go read the code, there's always these little links. I don't know how many of you read code, but it'll give you a definition for something, and then it'll say as explained in, and then sometimes they'll link to it, but sometimes they'll just make you look it up, which I think is maybe a game they like to play because it's harder to find stuff. But you need to look up, if you're reading a bill, make sure you look up all the little links and codes and everything that they have in there when they refer to things, because that gives you the real definition. That tells you what the bill is really going to do. Okay, so pre-K through higher ed are mostly covered by personal, religious, and medical exemptions. And they can't deny you these exemptions. These are guaranteed by state law. So if anybody ever tells you we're not accepting your personal, medical, or religious exemption for school, I want to know about it, okay? Because I will go to bat for you. Okay, so this bill is very clear, it's broad in scope, and it's very needed. So why do we need it? One of the things that is happening, and I don't know how many of you paid attention to this, but we have blurred the line between public and private. And we have public-private partnerships. We have subsidies where businesses get money from the government in order to operate. We have tax incentives where businesses that are supposedly private businesses are getting a tax break in order so that they can earn more money and be more successful. So these things, I think, compromise the ability of these businesses to act as free market businesses. So when you tell me that a business should not be told what to do, I will tell you, first of all, we always tell businesses what to do. They have a business license. And if they don't follow the rules, their license can be pulled. So when the rules change, they have to follow the rules or risk their license, or in some cases, like we saw with the masking, they risk being fined. And there are all kinds of things where businesses can be either incentivized or penalized for not doing what the government wants them to do. And so the purpose of this bill is to protect them from having to deal with that at all. They should be able to do business and serve their customers without having to worry about what the health department is going to come up with next. So that's one of the reasons we need this bill. It's not because we want to tell businesses what to do. It's because we don't want other people telling businesses what to do. So the governor has asked businesses already to do this. So it's not like we're just theorizing that the businesses are going to be asked to do this. They were asked to do it with masks, and they are being asked already to do it with vaccines. Okay, I have a long list of businesses, right? Well, here, I'll turn this. This is 2 pages of businesses in Utah that are already requiring either a vaccine passport or a negative PCR test in order for you to enter their establishment and do business. So this is not theorizing either. We're not just acting on this in anticipation of something. This is already happening right here in Utah. And as these businesses normalize this behavior, it will spread to other businesses, not only through peer pressure, but probably through incentives and penalties. So what we would like to do is stop this from happening now.
Yep.
There should not be any health requirement where you have to show papers to enter a business establishment.
Woo!
Okay, so private businesses. We talk about private businesses. Private businesses are made up of private individuals. The business owners are private individuals, and each employee and each customer is a private individual. There has to be a line that we don't cross as far as telling individuals what they are to do with their bodies. And
That's right.
and this, to me, is the line. You don't inject anything into my body without my consent.
Woo!
So if we do allow businesses or government to tell us what we can or cannot put into our bodies, then what is to stop them in an emergency? What is to stop them from coming up with some other emergency? For example, we could say climate change is suddenly an emergency. And having too many children exacerbates the problems with climate change. So now we need everybody to carry a record of how many live births they have had in order to enter the grocery store. And if you've had too many live births, then you can't enter the grocery store because you are contributing to the emergency. That sounds a little bit ridiculous, and I hope it does. I hope it does sound ridiculous. But really, it's no more ridiculous than telling you that you have to inject any substance into your body against your will. There are other ways to take care of your health. There are better ways to take care of your health. And the fact that one person's opinion is that the vaccine is the way to do it does not mean that everyone else should have to do that.
Woo! Woo!
So let's not go down that road. We as a group, we have a group, Utah Open for Business, that has a list of over 2,000 businesses that have asked for legislation along these lines. They do not want to be the enforcement arm for medical mandates, and they have asked for this kind of legislation. So private businesses that are truly private businesses do support this legislation. And the other thing that the businesses are protected from by this legislation is liability. So they're protected from having to be the enforcement arm, but once you become the enforcement arm, you are liable if you have forced somebody to get this vaccine or forced somebody to do something and they've been injured.
Yep.
If they can prove
Woo!
injury, you're liable. So this also protects them from that. And we know the pharmaceutical companies are not liable. And we also know that the administrators of this vaccine under the PrEP Act are also not liable. But there's nothing in there about to protect the business owner that has forced this vaccine on someone. So they are liable for injury. Okay, and one last point.
Describe the content in the bill. I understood everything except for the liability issue. So I'm wondering, you said that the bill would give employers liability and protection against forcing people to be vaccinated, and it seems the opposite of what you would want to do.
Okay, so we didn't understand that, and I guess I didn't explain it very well. So the bill does not affect whether the employers are liable. What it does is it makes it so that they're not giving they're not pushing the vaccines, and so they can't be liable if they're not doing it. That's what it means. So it doesn't remove liability, it just makes it so that they're not forced into a position where they're having to having to make employees or customers get a vaccine that they then could be liable for. Does that make sense? Okay.
I think it's also really important to note just like where this bill is at right now. We're up on the Capitol all the time, and so we've been watching it go through each of the places it's been. And so right now it's in committee in the House, and then after it's in committee it goes to the floor. That's where the battle is going to be, is in the committee and on the House floor. The Senate already loves it. The Senate will pass it. So like we're very close. And this bill, it already has about 31 people who have said they will vote for it, and to pass we need 38. So we're tripping over the last like 7 people. So get your emails out, talk to these people, and we could really see this pass the House and then onto the Senate.
And one other thing that I forgot. So if you know any business owners, particularly independent business owners or mid-level business owners, please see Kristen or I after this, because we're really making an effort to reach out to as many as we can. Those who are opposed to this type of those who are opposed to vaccine mandates, please let us know. Because we want to be in contact with them and see if they're willing to come up to show support at the very least, or to speak on the bill on Tuesday.
So we've talked about all of this as far as the House goes, and that's a big part of it. But once it gets past the House, hopefully it will get past the House and goes through the Senate, there's one big piece, and that's Governor Cox. He's already said he would not let a piece of legislation like this through, but that's dependent on public support. So reach out to Governor Cox, and if we can get it past Senate, and if we can get it through the House, and on his desk, let's just make sure he doesn't veto it and that it goes through and is established as law. There are a couple of other things that I want to get through. So if you want to contact wasatchlobbying@gmail.com, they'll answer any other questions you have, or if you want to send any other emails out. And if you have any pictures from this event today, you can just send it to that email. That's wasatchlobbying@gmail.com. And that will just help us bring support in committee. We're going to have all of these pictures.